What is up, guys? iCrav with Spilt Milk here. And wow, what a 2024 Formula One season we had. We are a few days removed from the final Grand Prix as I'm recording this. So, the main big F1 story is if something happens with Sergio Perez or Checo. Please know I have recorded this as though Perez will be with Red Bull going into 2025, as his contract stipulates. More on that later, though. I will now rate the drivers over the whole season based on how I feel they have done. Let's see who had a good season and who had one to forget. Before we do get into it, though, a bit of housekeeping. I will not count finishes where drivers were classified for retiring with a few laps to go. With the American races, I will refer to them as by state name. So, in this case, the US Grand Prix will be the Texan Grand Prix. Obviously, the Miami Grand Prix and Las Vegas Grand Prix will still be as they are. I will use Emilia Romagna and Italy to refer to the two Italian races, though, and the Mexico City and the Sao Paulo Grand Prix I will refer to as Mexico and Brazilian Grand Prix, respectively. I also do not factor in sprint races into my stats, but I may mention them if I feel they're relevant. Also, just to clarify the 20 drivers I'll use, so I'm going to go with Liam Lawson over Daniel Ricciardo, Franco Colapinto over Logan Sargent, and Esteban Ocon over Jack Doohan, and obviously Signs and Magnussen over Ollie Behrman. So let's get into it with number 20, and this time there is no obvious candidate for this. No Logan Sargent, no Nick De Vries or Nicholas Latifi to fill the last place. So let's go with. Unfortunately, let's go with Valtteri Bottas. He's down to compared to where I put him in my mid-season video. The Sauber driver who finished 22nd in the standings. His best finish was 11th in Qatar, an average finishing position of 15.55. So that means he obviously, finished 15th or 16th place would be his average finish, and we don't know what he's doing into 2025 onwards. But he might go back to, I think the rumour is he's going to go back to Mercedes as a test driver. So this one hurts. I do rate Bottas. He's a really good driver, but maybe now he is past his peak and was the only full-time driver not to score a point all season, which is why he is 20th in my rankings and last. Even though Bottas did trounce his teammate Guan Yu Zhou 21-3 in the qualifying battle, but Zhou edged Bottas on average race finishing position, which is what matters in my opinion. It's a shame that Bottas didn't get a second wind with Audi, but after 11 seasons in the sport, maybe this is the last time we will see Bottas and everyone in favour of younger talent coming through. Um, he's finished second and third in the drivers' championship twice before with Mercedes. So he's got as high as second and third twice, but of course never won the championship. Before we go, fun fact: Bottas is the driver who has scored the most points in Formula One without winning a championship. I was surprised that other drivers like Felipe Massa, Rubens Barrichello, or Daniel Ricciardo are not holding this honour. In fact, Bottas must have held it for a while, as he didn't really add to his tally in the last few years. I bet Bottas will feel well hard done by if Audi do well. All his work going into the car after Bottas himself was part of a multi-championship winning team, and then someone else reaps the benefits. He will be replaced at Sauber by fellow veteran Nico Hulkenberg. I do sometimes wonder what would happen if Russell did flop at Williams and Bottas was still at Mercedes. Would Hamilton still be at Mercedes too, with no Russell to chase him out, and with Bottas always ready to play the team game to back up Hamilton? Who knows if it's alternate universe of Formula One? Who knows? In 19th place, we have Bottas' teammate Guan Yu Zhou. A pretty bad season for Kick Sauber overall. Zhou himself is also down 2 compared to my mid-season video. Obviously, a Sauber driver who finished 20th in the standings. His best finish all season was at 8th place in Qatar. Average finishing position of 15.22, so just slightly better than Bottas's, but not much in it. And of course, we don't know what's happening with Zhou either. But word is on the street he's going to be with Red Bull next season as a development driver or an affiliate driver, something along those lines. Um, Zhou, much like his predecessor Antonio Giovinazzi, was just average. Not bad, not good either. And driving for a backmarket team like Sauber, you have to be better than average to impress, like George Russell did and Alex Albon is doing at Williams when they were backmarket teams. Otherwise, you're either going to be stuck at the backmarket teams, or more likely, what's going to happen is you're going to be dropped before too long, which is what has happened to Zhou after three seasons at Sauber. Zhou was drubbed 21-3 against his teammate in the qualifying battle, but as I said before, in race trim, Zhou just got the edge on Bottas, scoring the team's only points with the 8th place at Qatar. Zhou is level on points with Liam Lawson, but Zhou finishes above Lawson, but Zhou um, finishes above Lawson as Zhou got the better race result of 8th. Lawson only got a duo of 9ths. It's a shame for Zhou, but I think Zhou only got into F1 to begin with because of his Chinese nationality. Of course, no, you're going to want to attract the biggest market on earth. It's certainly not a bad idea. I don't think the F1 ride for Zhou is just over just yet. However, there is a rumor, as I said before, that Red Bull have approached him to be an affiliate driver. I think again, this is so Red Bull can break into the Chinese market with over 2 billion people as your audience. Surely there will be a boost to sales, whatever happens of Red Bull if they do sign Zhou. I think Zhou has had a fair chance in Formula One, so if he doesn't come back, I don't think it's a hard done by thing. I think he's had his chance, but he hasn't really taken it. He hasn't really maxed out on it. He's not used the opportunity fully. He hasn't impressed. Um, yeah, and, this is why I don't think it's worthy. So moving on to 18th place, we have quite a bit. Might be a bit of surprise for some people. Lance Stroll, he is down 8 this time, and is the biggest faller compared to my um, mid-season video. The Aston Martin driver, eternally, I think, finished 13th in the standings. His best finish this season was 6th in Australia, and an average finishing position of 12.3. Obviously, his future lies with Aston Martin until his father relinquishes power. Honestly, when will the Strolls give up another season of incidents and annoying other drivers, most notably in China, in Qatar, with Ricardo and Albon respectively being the victims this time? Stroll's teammate Alonso scored almost more than triple than what Stroll scored, as well as trouncing Stroll 19-5 in the qualifying battle. Enough said. Hopefully, um, Stroll will be moved on to like another series at Aston Martin involving like the World Endurance Championship. And let's move on quickly. In 17th place, we have Kevin Magnussen, who's up 2 compared to my mid-season video from 19th up to 17th. The Haas driver, who's finished 15th in the standings this season, best finish of 7th in Mexico, an average finishing position of 12.75. And as we know, he'll be in the World Endurance Championship with BMW next season. K-Mag, we are going to miss you in Formula One. After you fall foul of the stewards for the first half of the season, which culminated in your one race ban at the Azerbaijan race, K-Mag showed he can still race clean, his points finishes in Mexico and Qatar being the highlights of the season. As K-Mag improved his behaviour towards the end of the season, I did want to put him in a couple positions higher compared to my mid-season video, as he showed he still can race clean and be a good racer and, slightly redeem himself. Fun fact, Magnussen holds the dubious honour of having the most F1 starts without leading a lap. So at least Hulkenberg has led a lap compared to Magnussen. Basically, Magnussen got second place in his first ever Grand Prix and didn't really capitalise on it ever. He never got back to those heights. Will Magnussen be back in F1 for a fourth spell and have a chance to correct that stat? time will tell. As we all know, anything can happen in Formula One. We didn't expect Magnussen back for this third stint, but things happen. Let's hope Magnussen does well now for BMW in the World Endurance Championship. I doubt he would be back though, now being committed to that series full time. So next up in 16th place, and another might be seen as a bit of surprise, Sergio Perez, who is down 7 and another big faller. The Red Bull driver who finished a surprisingly a bad 8th position in the championship. Best finishes of the season were second places in Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and Japan. Not even scoring a win this time. His average finishing position was 7.42, and his future is currently with Red Bull. However, there's a big asterisk next to that, as I'm recording this video, we're having the tests at Abu Dhabi. So maybe another drive after those tests, maybe another driver might be announced shortly after then to partner Max Verstappen at Red Bull, and of course, and there's still one. The only vacant seat in 2025 is the one at Racing Bulls for next season. So, what is going on with Checo? Like in 2023, he does well for the first 6 races, finishing where he needs to be, backing up Verstappen, and then from the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, he then slumps onwards, basically costing Red Bull the Constructors' Championship. Because of this, Red Bull are looking at other options, even though Checo is under contract for next season. I do find it very interesting that Yuki Tsunoda is scheduled to drive the Red Bull, not V car, but the Abu Dhabi driver test. Red Bull have said it's it's a favour to Honda, but I think it's more than that. I think they're just passing it off as a favour to Honda, but I think they are really considering Yuki as why not? I reckon it should be fair enough that why can't I just be honest and just say, yeah, we are looking at other drivers, and why not? Every team should be looking at every other driver. In case something happens to one of their drivers, at least they know who they can go for next, who their target is. The reason why Checo is so low in my ranking is that I expect Checo to be in a better position, driving perhaps the best car in the field. I do rate Checo, and I think he did a good job for Red Bull in 2021 and 2022. I think was it in Mexico, Brazil, and Abu Dhabi in 2021, basically holding up Hamilton. So that way, Max Verstappen had enough room and time to make a pit stop and come out in front of Hamilton. So he did help in that season and in 2022 as well, and was a good signing. But Checo did what he needed to do, and it has gone awry since from 2023 onwards. I can only assume the car is built on the limit around Verstappen, and Checo cannot drive it, being a conservative tyre whisperer. If I was Checo, I would certainly be considering joining the Cadillac team, who will be entering in 2026. The writing is on the wall for his time at Red Bull, unless he has a chance to turn it around and be consistently good in 2025. Whether he'll get that far and be in the team for 2025 is that's really in the balance. It remains to be seen. Checo's only got himself to blame. He's dug his hole, and now he needs to desperately get out of it quickly. In 15th place, I have Esteban Ocon, who is up 1 from my mid-season video. The Alpine driver who finished 14th in the standing. His best finish of the season was at 2nd place in that wet Grand Prix in Brazil. His average finishing position is 13.24. And as we know, he'll be driving for Haas next season, replacing K-Mag, K-Mag and/or Hulkenberg at Haas. Pierre Gasly has won the war at Alpine, almost scoring double compared to what Ocon has scored. After a close 2023, where there was nothing to choose between the two drivers, with Gasly just edging it, Ocon finds himself chased out to Haas for 2025 as his 3-year deal ran out at the end of 2024. A 3-year deal is almost unheard of in Formula One. Only the best drivers are offered 3 years or more in their contracts. But in that 3 years, both Ocon and Alpine have changed. It started with Ocon winning the race in Hungary 2021, although it was rain affected and a bit of a lottery as well. But you know, Alpine had the car to win, and if you ask Alonso, though, he'll say, "Well, it's I held, I was he was a lion holding up everyone else, so that way Ocon could get away and get the win." So Ocon won in Hungary, and apart from the second place in Brazil this year, it's been a lean and hard time for both driver and team. Maybe it's best they parted, but both parted ways now. Now that he's going through hard times. If it wasn't for the second place at Brazil, Ocon would only have scored 5 points all season compared to Gasly's 42. Although I'm sure Ocon would have scored some points during that race in Brazil. However, in the quali head-to-head, Gasly just edged it 12-11, but Gasly did more in the races, so I think it's the right choice to move Ocon on. It'll be interesting to see how Ocon does alongside the incoming Ollie Bearman in the Haas, who, in my opinion, has impressed in his few drives this season. I'm sure it goes without saying Ocon must beat Bearman to show his manager Toto Wolff, who is the head of Mercedes, that he should be in contention for a top F1 seat. Whether Red Bull sign George Russell to partner or replace Max Verstappen, although I doubt they would be teammates after what happened in Qatar, or if Antonelli flops, Ocon wants to make himself the clear replacement. Um, depending what happens at Mercedes. I see the move at Haas as just a sideways move. Falling out of Alpine, it's now time to move on after a few seasons and try something new. Um, you know, Ocon had the outside shot of the Mercedes seat when it was available, um, and he had to choose between that and the increasingly negative appeal of the Audi seat. Well, the short-term negative appeal anyway. So, and all the options, Ocon, I think we went for the best one out of the options he had, which were very limited, but he went for the Haas option. Next up, in 14th place, is Liam Lawson, who's up one from the driver he replaces, Ricardo, compared to what Ricardo did in my mid-season video. Uh, Liam Lawson is the V-carb driver who finished 21st in the standings. His best finishes was, as I said before, those ninths in Texas and Brazil. Average finish of 12.8, and as at the moment, we don't know what's happening with Lawson. However, some are saying he's the favourite for the Red Bull seat. Others say he'll be at V-carb, but we'll hopefully get some answers soon in the next week or so. Liam picked up from where he left off in 2023, and in my opinion, over the season should beat Daniel Ricciardo if the two were given a season together. Just to compare, Ricciardo finished an average of 12.75, so really there was nothing in it looking at it on average. But if Lawson and Ricciardo had the season together at the same team, I would bet Lawson would edge Ricciardo. So a fair comparison can be made as both drivers would have raced at all the same tracks. I think Lawson will be at V-carb next season with Sonoda, with the winner of the battle this upcoming season will replace Perez in 2026, or maybe even halfway through 2025. We know how cutthroat Red Bull can be and how impulsive they can be with moving their drivers around. Hopefully, we will see what Liam can do over a full season soon. He's only experienced the end of the season twice now, so hopefully he'll get a full season soon and take part in some of the earlier races. In 13th place is the fellow driver coming in being a mid-season change, Franco Colapinto, who compared to Logan Sargent is up 7 and is the biggest climber from the driver he replaced in the. So Sargent was 20th in my mid-season video. Obviously, Franco Colapinto, who's gone up 7 places. Franco, being a Williams driver, finished 19th in the standings. Best finish of 8th in the second race in Azerbaijan. Average finishing position was 11.17. We don't know what happened. what Colapinto is doing in 2025. Fast becoming a fan favourite all around the world and not just in his Argentinian homeland, Franco made an instant impact when he replaced Logan Sargent at the Italian Grand Prix, finishing 12th and then finishing 8th in Azerbaijan, confirming that the Williams is a contender for the lower points as every event as Albon was showing in his car. Even Red Bull were fans and were looking to try to sign Colapinto, maybe for the V Carb team alongside Sonoda to evaluate over a season. However, Franco did go off the boil towards the end of the season, and with the complicated contract Colapinto was under for Williams. Try saying that with a bit of a tongue twister. Red Bull's interest cooled. Lots of fans hoped Colapinto would be a last minute contender for the remaining Sauber seat, but this went to fellow South American, the Brazilian F2 champion Gabriel Bortoleto. So I think that's a fair decision. The F2 champion finally, going straight into F1. I think that's how it should be. So hopefully this will appease the South American fans. They will now, both Argentine and Brazilian alike, will now have someone to cheer on next season. Funny enough, the last South American who drove an F1 was Pietro Fittipaldi for AS in 2020. He only raced a few races. The last full-time racer was Felipe Massa, when he also drove for Williams in 2017, as he postponed his retirement to be a late replacement for Valtteri Bottas after he moved from Williams to replace Nico Rosberg after he won his championship. Ooh, that feels like a distant memory now. But coming back to the here and right now, I hope we see Colapinto again in the future. He is worthy of having a proper crack at F1. It's a shame that Williams are all locked out for the next few seasons, certainly. Um, Hopefully Colapinto, another team, Williams will let Colapinto drive another team. Next up in 12th place, Alexander Albon, who's up to, compared to my mid-season video, the Williams driver who's finished 16th in the standings this season. The best finish was leading his teammate Colapinto in Azerbaijan with a 7th place. So obviously, that's the highlight of the season for Williams, getting 7th and 8th in Azerbaijan. His average finish was over the season was 12.71, and as we know, Albon will be at Williams in 2025. Now, here we come to the drivers who are at least contracted to be in F1 next season. As we all know, but as we all know, a contract in F1 can mean nothing. Drawing first blood in this group is Alex Albon, who, to be honest, has been distinctly average in the midfield this season compared to last season, and is perhaps higher up on my list than he should be. But I suppose he has been performing better than most, and is usually the innocent victim of the midfield madness, with incidents like Japan and Qatar bringing him down. A more consolidation season, perhaps showing more of where the Williams is actually after a strong 2023. But here comes the boss challenge in the form of Carlos Sainz. Surely one driver will end the other's career, as the F1 exit door comes fast if you are the weaker driver in a midfield team, especially with drivers like Colapinto waiting in the wings for a seat. So it'll be an interesting season for Albon. Let's see how he gets on with Sainz. Be very well anticipated. Next up in 11th place and just off the points, Yuki Tsunoda, who's up one compared to my mid-season video. The V-Carb driver, who's finished 12th in the standings. He's got 3 7th places as his best result in Australia, Miami, and Brazil. His average finishing position was 11.29. At the moment, his future is be with V-Carb in 2025. However, you could be in Red Bull, who knows? Like Albon, Tsunoda has been average just where he needs to be and beating his teammates, quietly scoring the lower points when the circuit suit the car and if the opportunity arises. I was most intrigued seeing Tsunoda will drive a Red Bull at the end of the season test at Abu Dhabi. Maybe the Tsunoda will get the Red Bull seat after all, but maybe more by default after other options Red Bull looked at like Ricciardo, Russell, Colapinto, and briefly Lawson. The option that Red Bull always had, if no other better option presented itself. Of course, Red Bull playing this test down, saying, "Oh, it's just a kickback to Honda, giving Tsunoda a chance at the drive at the Red Bull test." Um, I hope that if Tsunoda doesn't get the Red Bull drive, he follows Honda to Aston Martin to replace Stroll. Hopefully, the Strolls will realise that the dream isn't coming true, and maybe put Lance in the World Endurance Championship there, to try and then be champion there. Yuki has seen off both De Vries and Ricardo, but can he see off Lawson and Perez for the ultimate prize? The much coveted second Red Bull seat. Now coming into the top 10 and scoring some, we're going to award some points now. In 10th place, Pierre Gasly, who's up 3 compared to my video mid-season. The Alpine driver who just squeezed in 10th in the championship, pipping Nico Hulkenberg. His best finish of the season was at 3rd in Brazil. Average finishing position of 11.45. And as we know, Gasly will be at Alpine next season. So Gasly scores a point from me, finishing 10th in my rankings and 10th in the standings, pipping Hulkenberg by a point. However, I think Hulkenberg has been more consistent and impressive in his comeback, and Gasly's 3rd in Brazil was impressive, but not necessarily on merit, which is why Gasly is below Hulkenberg in my rankings. Gasly rose to the challenge to be nombre un. I'm not sure if that's the French for number one, beating compatriot Ocon both seasons, as they were teammates, and now Ocon has run away to Haas, hoping to rebuild there. Gasly now has long-term Alpine youngster Jack Doohan as teammate next season. Hopefully, Alpine will get off to a better start in 2025, knowing they will be powered by Mercedes from 2026, and after a strong end of 2024. Ninth place, Fernando Alonso. He's down 1 compared to my mid-season video. The Aston Martin driver who finished 9th in the championship. Best finish of 5th in Saudi Arabia. Average finishing position of 9.82. And his future with Aston Martin. So, as you can pretty much tell, Fernando Alonso 9th place all across the board. After your Ferraris, McLarens, Red Bulls and Mercedes, Fernando Alonso is the best of the rest after that. A bit of a meh season from Alonso. He just hasn't had the car. No podiums this season. With his best season with that 5th place in Saudi Arabia. Alonso is just waiting for the Honda engines from 2026. But will he have to make way for a Japanese driver? Alonso might go anywhere if they turn out to be GP2 engines. I remember that. That was quite a funny moment at the Japanese Grand Prix that was aimed at Honda. But it sounds like from both Honda and Alonso, they're both patched up their differences, and looking forward to working with each other, possibly. So in 8th place, I have Nico Hulkenberg, who's up 3 compared to my mid-season video. The Haas driver, who finished 11th in the standings, as I said before, just pipped by Gasly. Nico's best finish was 6th in Austria and Britain. An average finishing position of 10.67, so either 10th or 11th would be his average finish. And he'll be driving for Sauber next season, going on to be hopefully being an Audi driver in 2026. A man reinvented in 2024, much like compatriot Heinz Harald Frentzen was in 1999 with Jordan. Now that's a throwback and a half. Although not quite challenging for the championship like Frentzen was, Hulkenberg proved in 2024 that he still very much had a part to play in Formula One, and was just pipped to 10th in the standings by Gasly by a single point. However, I'm sure Gasly would have scored some points in Brazil. His 3rd place was more luck than skill, hence why I've put Hulkenberg above Gasly in my rankings. Hulkenberg was more consistent over the season. Very much Formula One's journeyman, Hulkenberg is on the move again to Sauber after one season at Haas where he showed he's still very much relevant. However, will the Audi gamble pay off, and can Hulkenberg shake the record of having most F1 starts with no podium finish. Who knows? Well, at least compared to Magnussen, he's actually led. I think he's actually had some laps where he's led a Grand Prix. So he has led a Grand Prix, Hulkenberg, but didn't actually consolidate or even finish in the top three. Moving on now to 7th place, Lewis Hamilton, a non-mover, the first non-mover since compared to my mid-season video. The Mercedes driver who finished 7th in the standings, best finish of you got the wins in Britain and Belgium, inheriting the win from Russell in Belgium. I might quickly like to add. His average finishing position was 5.86, so 5th or 6th is where we expect Hamilton to finish over the season. And as we know, he'll be with Ferrari next season. A bit of a throwaway season for Hamilton, knowing his future would lie away from Mercedes for most of the season. His attitude in Qatar race stunk, basically saying, I had enough, let me focus on 2025. And I bet some in Ferrari are regretting the incoming Hamilton over Sainz. However, we all said this about Hamilton when he left McLaren for Mercedes. Will it be another inspired decision? If I was Fred Vasseur, I would have kept Sainz over Hamilton if I could have got Sainz to sign a new contract. There's good team harmony between Leclerc and Sainz, but maybe Vasseur wants to push Leclerc a bit on, and Hamilton-Leclerc battle is hotly anticipated going into 2025. Maybe having Hamilton as a teammate will be what Leclerc needs to push him to get a championship win. The highlight of the season is obviously the win in Great Britain, as well as inheriting the win in Belgium after Russell's disqualification. Can Hamilton be world champion for Ferrari? If Ferrari can provide the car, I can't see why not. Much like Ocon at Alpine, I feel Russell has chased Hamilton out of Mercedes, and also Hamilton just needs a change, having driven Mercedes-powered machinery all his F1 career. In 6th place, we have George Russell, who's also a non-mover. The Mercedes driver who also finished 6th in the standings. Obviously got the inherited the win in Austria after Verstappen and Norris took each other out. Should have won in Belgium, but was disqualified, and also won in Las Vegas. So 2 wins for George Russell, the wins in Austria and Las Vegas. So either way you look at it, Russell got 2 wins in the end. Some say he shouldn't have won in Austria. If only he's only given it because of Verstappen and Norris. But then again, he got a win taken away in Belgium, so I guess that all evens itself out. An average finishing position of 5.05, so much better average finishing compared to Hamilton, a clear 5th, while Hamilton is expected to finish either 5th or 6th. 2024 is the season where Russell asserted his dominance at Mercedes, much like Gasly has done at Alpine. After a close 2023 between the teammates, Russell has clearly beaten his teammate in both average race finish points tally, in the points tally, and in qualifying, where Russell beat Hamilton 19-5, very much cementing top dog status. And this is even after Hamilton inherited Russell's win at Belgium. However, Russell had better watch out in 2025, not rest on his laurels, as he could be dethroned himself by the incoming Kimi and Antonelli. I think Russell could string a championship together, judging by his drives in Belgium and Las Vegas. No one could touch him. Could be a dark horse if everyone else has bad luck, etc. And also be interesting to see how the Verstappen-Russell rivalry develops after what happened in Qatar, how it goes on and evolves. In 5th place, I have Oscar Piastri, who is down 1 compared to my mid-season video. The McLaren driver, who finished 4th in the standings, got the wins in Hungary and Azerbaijan, and also got the Qatar sprint win. Average finishing position of 5.13, so slightly less compared to Russell, but not much in it. Although gifted his first Grand Prix win in Hungary and the Qatar sprint win from Norris, Piastri showed he could do it himself at Azerbaijan, while Norris was on recovery drive after bad luck with the yellow flags in qualifying. So yeah, I think Piastri and comparing Piastri and Russell both had one Grand Prix at a piece where they were, definitely one Grand Prix where they were, they showed that on their day, they're the best driver out there. Well, Russell had two because he had the one in Belgium as well, even though that's taken away from him. But getting back to Piastri, I think he will be the next Australian world champion. And if McLaren can provide the car, Piastri could certainly make Norris's villain arc come out. No more gifting wins to Piastri. The questioning of Norris letting Piastri win at Hungary didn't really come back to haunt Norris, as Verstappen still wrapped up the title comfortably with races to spare. McLaren knew in their heart of hearts only the Constructors' Championship was possible, so the order that the drivers finished didn't matter in Hungary, as long as they were scoring the maximum number of points for the team. Piastri just edged Sainz in the standings in the championship, but I feel Sainz would have finished ahead of Piastri if he didn't have to sit out the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Hence why Piastri will be below Sainz in my ranking, as well as Piastri being gifted some points by Norris, inflating Piastri higher than he should be. However, let's leave Piastri remembering that he can win and control races like he did in Azerbaijan. Let's hope it's not papaya civil war in the upcoming seasons. Next up, in fourth place and just missing out on the podium, is Carlos Sainz. Down one compared to my mid-season video. The Ferrari driver who finished fifth in the standings, getting the wins in Australia and Mexico, averaging a finish of 4.05. So more often than not, Sainz will find himself finishing in fourth place. Another solid season for Carlos, who grabbed 2 wins, who will be going to Williams in 2025. For me, Williams pulled a massive coup, managing to sign Sainz. In particular, Sainz's weekend in Mexico, he just dominated Mexico. It's like all the top 6 drivers. I think they all had at least one race where they said, "Yep, that was my race." Piastri in Azerbaijan, Russell in Las Vegas, Charles Leclerc in Monaco, and so on and so forth. I just hope that Williams can provide Sainz with the car, and it says a lot of for Sainz to pick them over the other options. Admittedly, Williams was the best of a bad bunch. The best option, I would say. However, Sainz could have gambled on Sauber with the Audi seat. But of course, he would decide Sainz ultimately went for Williams. And as I said before, and I will say it many times over, I would always pick Sainz over Hamilton. I do think if Sainz stayed at McLaren, who knows what would happen. But if Ferrari come knocking like they did with Hamilton, you have to answer the door and let them in. The battle between the two former Red Bull development drivers at Williams, between Albon and Sainz, will be hotly anticipated. Let's hope it's a close and exciting competition between the two. So, moving on to the top 3 podium places. As we know, it's Verstappen, Norris, and Leclerc. I think we can probably guess the order. So I might just go for it now. In third place, and on the bottom step of the podium, we have Charles Leclerc, who's up 2 compared to my mid-season video. The Ferrari driver, who finished third in the championship. As I mentioned before, he got the win in Monaco. He also got wins in Italy and Texas. An average finishing position of 3.91, so we expect Leclerc to finish third or fourth throughout the season. Outside of not winning the championship, Leclerc should be happy with 2024, finally winning his home race, as well as in Italy for his team, and also winning in America. So it's funny to see that, Max Verstappen didn't win any race in America this season. Oh well. After losing out to Sainz after the first season together, Leclerc has very much got the measure over Sainz in the last few seasons, although Sainz very much has held his own over Leclerc when he has had the upper hand. I think of Italy, pretty much the end of last season. Sainz, there was like a little bit of a revival for him. He really took it to Leclerc at the end of last season. Really showed that he's deserving of that Ferrari seat. It'll be a new proposition for 2025, with Hamilton becoming Leclerc's teammate. However, I don't think Leclerc has anything to worry about, as Leclerc saw off another multiple world champion in the form of Sebastian Vettel, and then scared off Vettel to Aston Martin. If you looked at it that way, Leclerc has nothing to worry about, and it's all to lose for Hamilton. If Leclerc can beat Hamilton, then Leclerc should definitely become a world champion himself at some point. Let's hope he can do better than he did in 2022, and not let the pressure get to him as it did in France in 2022. Basically, ending his championship bid, and then Max dominated from there on in until the beginning of 2024, until Spain really this year. So pretty much 2 seasons or there, two full seasons where Max dominated. From middle of 2022 to the middle of 2024. Um, Moving on to the top two, you know how it's going to go. So I'm just going into it. In second place, Lando Norris, non-mover in my previous compared to my previous mid-season video. The McLaren driver who's finished second in the standings, got the wins in Miami, Netherlands, Singapore, and Abu Dhabi. So that's 4 wins, an average finishing position of 3.6. A breakout season for Norris, not only winning his first race but finishing runner-up in Formula One. He should have also won in Hungary as well and got a haul of 5 Grand Prix wins. But he gifted that win and the Qatar sprint win to Piastri. I'm sure Norris will get plenty of wins next season and beyond. So, much of a muchness for him. It also goes to show how important it is to finish every race. Both McLaren drivers drove every lap of 2024, except in Austria for Norris after he came together with Verstappen. So, yeah, imagine where he would have been if he did. Well, I think he still finished second if he still didn't crash with Verstappen. He was still classified 20th place in that race, though, after completing enough laps. Will Norris be the main challenger again in 2025? We eagerly look forward to getting an answer. And of course, the best driver, number one, first position. I can't remember the last time he was outside the top first place. I think even when Hamilton was winning his last championship in 2020, I put Verstappen as the best driver. So Max Verstappen, again, an unmover, the Red Bull driver who finished first in the championship, recorded 9 wins this season. Let me check them off. So we had a win in Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Japan, China, Emilia Romagna, Canada, Spain, and then we had that big drought until Brazil and Qatar. His average finishing position this season was 2.96, so third place. Was Max's fourth title ever in doubt? Maybe he got bored of winning after Spain and let everyone else have a chance, but still no one can hold a candle to him. It was like he was dangling a carrot on the stick to Norris throughout the season. For me, the wet weather drive from 17th to the win in Brazil was undoubtedly the highlight of the season. A championship winning drive. Another sign of a champion is Max's knowledge of the rules or exploitment of the rules in Texas, for example, meaning he didn't get penalised for pushing Norris wide, as all Max needed to do was dive from the corner apex, meaning in the steward's eyes, the corner was his. So that's why he didn't get penalised, because they say, well, Max had the corner. So if he pushed Norris wide, Norris should have perhaps jumped out the way, or it's his fault for being left out to dry because Max Verstappen got the corner. It reminds me of Michael Schumacher, how to win a championship, because he won from the pit lane in Britain in 1998. Also in 1994, sorry, not 1994, because that's when Schumacher pushed Damon Hill wide in Australia, and well, I suppose it is a bit of it kind of is a bit of a skill from Schumacher. knowing he had the slower car, so he decided to damage Hill's car, so he can outscore Schumacher. And it's kind of what I think what Schumacher tried to do and failed in 1997 against Jacques Villeneuve. Um, but yeah, he got disqualified that time. Also, Prost, I think it was in 1990 in Japan, or 89. No, it's a season when he was in McLaren with Senna. So Prost won the championship because Senna got disqualified for missing the chicane up with where they both where both Prost and Senna collided. So according to the steward, Senna did not complete the full race distance and was disqualified. Or what about more recently in Hungary 2007 when Alonso deliberately had a slow pit stop, meaning that this was to the detriment of his rival and teammate Hamilton. However, after the winless drought between Spain and Brazil, will Verstappen be challenged in 2025? Without Adrian Newey, can Verstappen hang on to win a fifth consecutive title? Well, that's my top 20. What's yours? Comment down below your top 20 and discuss my choices if you want to as well. I am looking forward to the 2025 season. I'll see you there.